The story begins by introducing Alicia. She wakes up inside a carriage on the way to the dark area, the territory of the black beasts. Alicia has become a heroine and is accompanied by other heroes, all arrogant and self-confident, as they carry the regal weapons of the Kingdom of Haydn, legendary artifacts of immense power. The hero Stefan orders everyone to prepare, and even gives that famous wink to Alicia, believing in his delusional mind that he is the true protagonist of the story. At that moment, the coachman interrupts the journey. The road is blocked. To his bad luck, a black beast jumps out of the shadows, grabs him by the neck, and kills him on the spot. The heroes get out of the carriage wielding their regals and face the creatures, defeating them one by one. From above, watching everything from a mountain, is one of the Beast Kings, following the group's movements. During the fight, Alicia slices a creature in half with a precise strike. Another hero spins like a tornado, eliminating enemies around him. A third concentrates draconic energy into a sphere and throws it, disintegrating the beasts. Then, they come across a gigantic hydra that spits acid, but one of the heroes jumps about 30 meters into the air and executes a cutting blow, ripping all the creatures' heads off. However, one of the heads still moves, about to counterattack. Alicia acts quickly and drives her sword into the creature, ending the battle. As they advance a bit further, they reach the fortress of the King of the Black Beasts. One of the heroes, excited, exclaims that they are close to becoming legends. At that moment, everything starts to shake. At the top of the mountain, the imposing presence of the legendary Lord of the Moon Mountain appears. Everyone feels the strength emanating from that being. In the blink of an eye, he teleports like lightning and appears before the heroes. The aura and power he exudes leave everyone paralyzed. After all, they stand before the fearsome Clevatess of the Moonlight, the true king of the Black Beasts. The protagonist syndrome hero comments admiringly that this creature is incomparable to the other beasts they have faced. Even so, he arrogantly declares that, since they are part of the 13 chosen heroes by the King of Haydn, they will defeat him. He charges at Clevatess, followed by the others, but in a single move, he is crushed and thrown to the ground, broken like a miserable worm. The burly warrior, taken by rage, attacks without thinking, and is beheaded mid-air. One by one, the heroes are eliminated. Alicia then realizes the king uses shadows as weapons. She jumps about 50 meters and advances through the air, dodging attacks with agility that impresses even Clevatess. Another hero plants his sword in the ground, summoning a huge earth dragon, but is sliced before he can finish the spell. The spear hero advances with a powerful strike, but is intercepted by the king, who blocks it with one of his tails. Taking advantage of the opening, Clevatess pierces the hero with another tail, hitting him cruelly and symbolically. While exterminating the last heroes, Clevatess reflects. How did these worms get this far? How did they get these weapons? What happened in these 1,000 years? And what is their purpose here? He then decides to personally go to the Kingdom of Haydn to seek these answers. In that moment of distraction, Alicia takes the chance and flies toward the enemy, spinning with a horizontal strike, concentrating all her strength. She manages to scratch Clevatess's horn, which is not enough to even take him out of his thoughts. In response, the king unleashes a wave of cutting wind that severs one of Alicia's legs and hurls her far away. Fallen, she faces death and, in tears, asks her father's forgiveness for not being able to fulfill her dream. The scene cuts to the Kingdom of Haydn, where everyone lives their routines peacefully, until from high above in the sky, Clevatess plummets onto a tower, terrifying the population. Chaos ensues. He has come to confront the one behind the invasion of his domains, the King of Haydn. Soldiers appear with beasts and shoot metal bolts at Clevatess, but he easily blocks them all. Then, he advances through the streets, destroying houses in his path. Ballistas and catapults are activated, but do not even scratch his skin. Giant arrows are dodged or blocked by the monster's tails, which retaliate by piercing the walls as if they were made of butter. Inside the palace, a soldier runs to warn the king. Upon learning what happened, the King of Haydn realizes that the heroes have failed. With no other options, he decides to seal the great furnace of Haydn, the kingdom's greatest treasure. Meanwhile, outside, the soldiers keep trying to stop Clevatess with more shots, all in vain. The Beast King thinks again about the heroes and realizes that their advantage was in the weapons. He concludes that with this kind of power, even a worm can become a threat. Therefore, he decides to eliminate everything before this force spreads. Inside the palace, the king prepares to seal the furnace, but before he can enter the sacred place, Clevatess tears off the roof as if it were a lunchbox lid and stares the king in the eyes. I finally found you. The King of Haydn, unaware of the danger, calls Clevatess a wild little dog. Clevatess warns him to be careful with his words, for the fate of all humanity is at stake. He states that the future of all kingdoms depends on that conversation, and that even if he destroys the Kingdom of Haydn, another will rise in its place and continue wreaking havoc on its territory. Therefore, he wants to determine their true nature, the humanoids. Then, he asks the decisive question, "Why did you wish for my death?" The king gives the worst possible answer. "An animal like you would never understand." And bam! Goodbye, head. As he leaves after devastating a kingdom in just a few minutes, Clevatess begins to devise his plans, to build an army that will exterminate humanity. At that moment, he hears a child crying. A woman approaches, extends her hand to him, and asks him to take care of the child. Clevatess replies that he will kill all humans, and that if she finds that terrible, she should hate the fate of having been born in Haydn. But the woman says the child cannot choose where or when to be born, and regardless of what the adults did to Clevatess, she cannot accept that this should be the reason for a baby's death. Clevatess responds that in his eyes, humans are all the same, children or adults. He says that when this child grows up and discovers that it was he who destroyed her home, she will take up a sword and turn against him and the black beasts. He also declares that besides humans never being satisfied with what they have, they invade their lands and kill their people, the black beasts. For that reason, he intends to eliminate them all. However, he questions the woman. Why does she believe that this child deserves to live? Then he demands that she prove it. The woman says she cannot, because she is already dying, but asserts that the child will be able to prove it once she grows up. Then she dies. Clevatess, driven by curiosity, decides to take care of the child. Since he can live for thousands of years for him, that child will grow up in a few days, and then the time will come when she will prove her worth. Next, we have a brief explanation about the continent of Edthea, which was inhabited by 5 human clans. The first clan was called Dorn. It was the most numerous, known for its skilled architects and warriors. From this clan emerged 2 great nations, Eslin and Borate. The second clan was Org, the forest people, experts in hunting and medicine. The third was the Slada clan. They were talented sailors and swimmers who preferred to keep their distance from the other clans. The fourth was the Bent clan, made up of barbarians who lived in nature and boasted about their strength, but were always in conflict with each other. And finally, the 5th clan was Haydn, the oldest and most mysterious of all. They were masters of metallurgy and machining. Their small country was surrounded by mountains, and they were the only ones capable of creating black weapons with magical ores and mana. This knowledge was exclusive to the royal family residing in the capital, Hiderat. Through weapon trade, the Haydns built a long history with the people of Dorn. Over time, the clans mixed, and the population became half Haydn. Pureblood Haydns became rare. The world stretched beyond the continent, but none of the clans knew what lay beyond. After all, that was the home of the black beasts, which surrounded the entire continent of Edthea. That same night, the baby is alone, and 2 beasts approach, salivating. But Clevatess easily scares them away. Then, he throws the baby into a hole full of insects that feed only on waste, feces, and excrement. And these insects end up cleaning the baby completely. Realizing he lacks the knowledge to keep a baby alive, he decides to revive Alicia so she can nurse the little one. As soon as she returns to life, she tries to draw her sword, but realizes she doesn't have it. Clevatess says he discarded all her weapons and the bodies of her allies in the valley. He also informs her that she was revived with his divine blood, and that now she is undead. This shakes her for a moment. Then she notices that her leg, which she had lost before, is back in place. Faced with this, she accepts the fact that she is now practically a zombie. Clevatess approaches and says, "Time to give some milk, woman." Alicia is confused and asks why one of the 4 Beast Kings would be interested in her milk. Clevatess tells her to shut up and just give the milk to the child, beginning to control her body against her will. To Clevatess's bad luck, Alicia is still a virgin, and therefore cannot breastfeed yet. She becomes furious, since a heroine like her had her guns exposed humiliatingly, and in a fit of rage, begs to be killed. Clevatess pins her to the ground and states that she cannot die, because now his divine blood flows in her veins. The baby's little tummy rumbles with hunger, and Clevatess explains that with his magical energy, he can keep the baby alive, but there's nothing he can do about the hunger. Alicia asks why he wants to take care of a baby, and Clevatess replies that it's none of her business, and since she can't nurse, she'll have to be useful in another way. Alicia admits she has never taken care of a baby before, but knows a way to feed it. She explains that since the baby is missing one hand, they need to find a wet nurse, a kind of foster mother who will breastfeed the child, and for that, they need money to hire her. Clevatess asks how to get this money, and Alicia says they just have to sell precious goods, like the magical ores present there. Determined, Clevatess agrees with the idea and says he will go after a wet nurse in the city. Alicia panics. She says there's no way a creature his size can enter and leave a village like it's nothing, and begs him to let her take the child alone there. Talking to herself, Alicia says she needs to get this child out of Clevatess's clutches and save her somehow. Clevatess denies her request and concludes that in his current form, he won't be able to properly keep up with the child's growth. So he transforms into a human, with an appearance similar to the woman who asked him to take care of the child, but with a single horn on his forehead. To infiltrate the human world, he decides to change his name to Clen, and names the child Luna. With that, the 3 set off toward the human kingdom. A few hours later, at their last camp, Alicia is bathing little Luna, and goes through an experience almost every mother goes through. And to her bad luck, Clen is nearby. complaining about everything she does like a grumpy stepmother. Then Clen comments that there must still be some clothes to change into at the camp and orders Alicia to take a bath and change because she smells like pee and blood, as well as ordering her to wash Luna's cloths. While washing the cloths, Alicia notices the royal family crest of Haydn embroidered on one of the fabrics, and then everything makes sense. Luna is actually the princess of Haydn. Meanwhile, in what remains of the city, a boy on horseback rides through the streets searching for survivors. He wonders if all that destruction could have been caused by a single black beast. And in the distance, atop a hill, General Drell watches the capital of Haydn in ruins. He concludes that with the castle of Hyderat destroyed and the king dead, the territory of Haydn is now ownerless. And he states with conviction that the neighboring kingdoms will not stand still. They will try to conquer Haydn at all costs. And probably, the black beasts will also advance. And most importantly, is the secret technique to forge magical ores, passed down only by the royal family of Haydn, and that it is essential to obtain it before the other nations. He then says he will join his army and orders Maynard to remain there, capturing any remaining royal family members alive. Back at the camp, Alicia questions Clevatess about why he kidnapped a child related to the king of Haydn. Clevatess responds that he did not know Luna was from the royal family and that he did not kidnap her. She was entrusted to him. Alicia does not believe it. Clevatess insists. After killing the king and destroying the castle, the child was entrusted to him. Alicia, already nervous, says that with the king dead, everyone will be searching for the child who can inherit the throne, since only the heirs of Haydn can use the furnace of Haydn. In other words, they are the only ones capable of creating the weapons that Clevatess considers dangerous. Then he understands why he became so curious about Luna's future, and says that her blood has cursed her with an inevitable destiny. With a sadistic smile, he says, "How interesting. So I will make this ugly thing a king, and I'll be right by his side, literally, to support him from the shadows." He concludes that watching humans from above would be quite entertaining, and secretly infiltrating the king's own family would also bring some fun. Besides the fact that this way, he could eliminate him whenever he wanted. Alicia realizes she has spoken too much, and that she just worsened humanity's fate with her loose tongue. She then decides that her last mission as a heroine will be to ensure Luna's safety, because it's clear that Clevatess, for some reason, is obsessed with the child. And if anything happens to her, he will probably destroy humanity. At that very moment, a brute appears behind Clen and hits him on the back of the head with a club. Alicia realizes they are surrounded by mountain thieves and says they're screwed. Clen falls unconscious to the ground, blood dripping from his head. Alicia stands there, mouth open, confused. Right after, she is also struck on the back of the head. And before fainting, she thinks in confusion, "What? My body wasn't supposed to be incapable of dying." Later, she wakes up, and for a brief moment believes everything that happened was just a dream, that she's still with the 13 heroes, and that soon they will all defeat Clevatess together. But then she fully regains consciousness, and reality hits her like a stone in the chest. Nothing was a dream. She really was captured. She and Clen. Clen explains the situation to her, and she asks him how he can be so calm. Then Alicia approaches Clen and asks why he fainted from just one blow and if, besides copying the woman's appearance, he also copied her strength. Clen says he didn't, and says he's surprised at how weak this skinny body and thin skin are. Alicia then asks why he doesn't escape from there. Clen says he will remain in human form until Luna reaches the throne, and that he also wants to see this side of humans. He then asks Alicia why the humans there in the cart are also imprisoned like them. Alicia says that the men who attacked them are mountain bandits, and that since they're taking everyone alive, they'll probably be sold to a slave trader. Clen asks Alicia about the bandits' strength level, and she reveals that compared to the human level, they are weak, but won't hesitate to use any dirty trick to gain an advantage. In short, they're a bunch of despicable trash. Alicia then emphasizes that Clen shouldn't form an opinion about humans based on those bandits. Shortly after, they arrive at a large mine, which is the slave trader's secret base. As they get off the cart, one of the slaves, terrified, runs trying to escape, but a completely blind guy throws a dagger into his back, killing him on the spot. The bodybuilder, using the man who tried to escape as an example, says they are the Ravens, and that if anyone there rebels or tries to escape, they'll be deleted without mercy. Then the bodybuilder calls Alicia to follow him, and a prostitute calls Clen to go with her. When he approaches, she notices that he's carrying a baby, so she calls Nell, who trips and falls. The blonde calls her useless and says another baby has arrived for her to nurse, because taking care of the babies is her job. And by Nell's expression, she definitely loves doing that. Then, at the bottom of the mine's lake, we see one of the regalia swords. Alicia is taken to Vroko, who gets pissed at being called that, saying he already told them to call him boss, and that since the former boss Zazak is already dead, he's the one in charge now. The bandits say he decided that on his own, which shows no one there really respects him. Then we see the reason he's in command. Vroko somehow managed to tame a troll he affectionately nicknamed Betty. Alicia is baffled as to how he managed such a feat. Vroko, noticing that Betty is a bit irritated, says he'll feed her one of the slaves later. Then he grabs the sack with the crystals and starts connecting the dots. Since he heard that recently the King of Haydn granted regalias to 13 heroes and sent them to the Moon Mountain to eliminate Clevatess, and that among the heroes there was a beautiful woman, but it seems they failed. And since crystals with that level of purity don't show up near humans, and Alicia came from the direction of the Moon Mountain, that definitely can't be just a coincidence. Then the bastard gropes Alicia's buttocks and says he finds it strange how calm she is in front of Betty, the troll, and that this proves she's one of the heroes. Alicia stays silent, even realizing that Vroko knows she's one of the heroes. Then he asks Alicia if she already knows that the kingdom of Haydn was destroyed by Clevatess and says that's the best news for them, the Ravens. Then he draws a dagger with a red tip. Alicia immediately realizes it's a regalia weapon. Vroko says that although it looks like a regalia, the dagger is fake because, as we all know, only the royal family can forge them. He then says that the stronger the red of the weapon, the higher its purity, and that weapons made by the royal family enhance the user's abilities. Vroko then says that with the fall of the kingdom of Haydn, the sale of fake regalia weapons will skyrocket, which will make his business very profitable, since the suckers who buy them don't know how to tell a fake from a real one. And he also claims that, since there are no survivors of the royal family, there will be no more regalia production, and with that, the value of his fake weapons will rise even more, and he'll make a fortune. Vroko then says that the value of the legendary regalias, the weapons of highest purity forged by kings of the past, will soar to unimaginable heights, and that since they collect those weapons, he states there are only two ways to obtain them. The first is to be recognized by the king as a hero, and the second is to take it from a dead hero. But killing a hero isn't an easy task, and most of them die in battle against the black beasts. And reaching the place where they died is no easy feat. Then he asks Alicia where her regalia weapon is and where her companions are. Alicia remains silent. Then Vroko tells the bandits that the next day, Alicia will take them to the regalias. The bandits get scared and ask if it wouldn't be better to send her alone to fetch the weapons. Vroko gets irritated with them and says that only she knows where the 13 regalias are, and that until she brings them, she cannot die, and that if she resists, they can have a little fun with her. Meanwhile, Clen is in the bandits' tavern, working, by force of course, as a waiter. He notices that Nell is breastfeeding Luna very happily. At that moment, a despicable man appears asking for more drinks. So Nell lovingly places Luna in a pot that serves as a cradle and goes to serve the bandit, but ends up getting kicked in the process. Clen watches everything, and a man calls him to serve him. While he serves meat to the man, others also call him, saying he's good at what he does. One of the bandits says the boy, Clen, was a great find, but the blonde woman says Clen kind of gives her the creeps. Looking at his horn, she believes Clen must have org blood, but is unsure due to his extremely pale skin and red eyes. Meanwhile, the bandits keep mistreating Nell and take her outside to teach her a lesson. After getting tired of beating her, they leave. But suddenly, they start feeling dizzy and bam, that's it. They drop dead and are absorbed by Clen's shadow. Nell appears, and Clen says the following sentence: "Your breasts are magnificent." He says this not in a sexual sense, but referring to her ability to breastfeed. While talking with Nell, he asks if she's part of the bandit group. She says yes, so Clen asks her to tell him more about her life. Then Nell says she's always been part of the Ravens. She says that as a child, she never knew who her father was, and that, although she had a mother, she didn't remember well what her face looked like. She says her mother was also a slave and that she would see her sometimes while hiding. I confess I cried a bit at this part while writing the script. One day, her mother disappeared, when she was 12, and whether she died or not, she doesn't know. But since her mother was no longer there, she ended up becoming a target for the bandits, and that after so many punches and kicks, she lost her teeth and now only hears with one ear. And only then did she understand how much her mother protected her, but wonders at what cost. Since that moment, she lived like an animal, but things got a little better when a woman named Carm arrived. Carm taught her how to deal with the men without suffering so much. Nell says she will never be like Carm, but that everything is much better than before, and that she found a way to be useful. Since she produces a lot of milk, she can fill the bellies of the little ones. Clen says he heard that only moms can produce milk, and asks where her child is. Then Nell reveals that unfortunately, her baby was born lifeless, and that she believes it was her fault. After that, her world turned to darkness, like she'd been pulled into a cold and dark place, and that at that moment, she didn't even care whether she lived or died. But when she woke up, she saw a little one over her. Must have been around 6 months old, and she didn't even know him. And when she saw the baby's desperation, she realized that, at that moment, for the sake of that child, she would live a little longer. And the next day came another child, and then another. And she has no idea where they came from, nor where they went. She also says she ended up having other children, but all were also born lifeless. But even so, she had to stay alive, because there are little ones like Luna to breastfeed. She says she wants to give these children the chance to be happy, since her own kids didn't have that opportunity, and that's all she has to say about herself. Clen thanks her for sharing her story and invites her to go with him. He wants to hire her as Luna's wet nurse. Clen says that although he doesn't trust humanity, he sees no reason to despise it. And most importantly, Luna liked her. Then Clen gives Nell a choice to go with him as Luna's wet nurse, or stay there, serving as a punching bag for that scum until the end of her life. She is happy with the proposal, but says that he is also a slave there and that she doesn't see how to escape. She also says that she needs to take care of the little ones that are still to come. Meanwhile, Alicia is led by the bandits across a wooden bridge. They tell her not to even think about jumping from there, because besides being very high, the place is full of rocks, and she would be smashed to pieces. Then she realizes that this mine was the last place of the hero Cordoir's incursion, the LB mine pit. The place is infested with creatures, and we see a man getting ready to jump into the pit. Not by choice, of course. His wife, clearly desperate, wishes him luck. Then the man gathers his courage and jumps into the pit. Alicia yells at him not to do it, because if the legends are true, the creatures that live there, the same ones that killed the hero Cordoir, will kill him. But it was too late. One of the creatures traps the man in its mouth, emerges from the pit, and devours him right in front of his poor wife, which leaves her in pure despair. Alicia is saddened by such cruelty and says that those aquatic beasts are called Arvensis. She explains that 300 years ago, they came with the water and forced the mine pit to be abandoned, and that not even the hero Cordoir, said to be the strongest of his time, was able to defeat them, and that back then, there was still a floor to fight on. Cordoir's regalia weapon was called Flow Divider, and it got that name because he split a waterfall in front of the king. Alicia then asks the bandits if that's what they're looking for down there. One of the bandits says he didn't even know the sword had a name, and asks if Alicia's sword has one too. Alicia says she would never tell scum like them. The big guy then says that Alicia still seems to not understand the situation she's in, and says there's a bunch of people eager to make the heroine squeal like a little pig. Then the blind bandit jumps onto the bridge, almost knocking everyone over in the process, and says that even though he can't see, he knows she's a beautiful woman, and that he's going to have a lot of fun with her. Then, believing herself to be immortal because of Clen's curse, Alicia dislocates her own shoulder, spins her arm, grabs the blind guy, and throws herself off the bridge along with him, plummeting down meters below until she smashes onto the rocks.